Hello, nice to meet you. I am Dr. Kim from Richgo.
Hello, this is Kim Ki-hyun from Richgo.
Recently, the governor warned that if household debt continues to increase at this rate, it could lead to a financial crisis. Today, I will talk a bit about that topic. Just how much is household debt?
Given the current situation, there are now significant loan regulations being implemented. This is all coming up because household debt has been increasing so much that it seems to be considered genuinely dangerous. If the governor of the Bank of Korea is discussing this, it must be taken seriously. Indeed, it is a very serious matter because you are someone who can have a tremendous impact on the market, and you are probably looking at a lot of data that we cannot see. This is an article that came out on August 27th. Excessive household debt can lead to a financial crisis. South Korea already has one of the highest levels of household debt in the world. And do you know what the really serious issue is? Joint's loans are excluded. Joint's loans are part of household debt too, right? If we include those as well, it's really dangerous. We are at one of the highest levels in the world. If it continues to increase and reaches an excessive degree, it could lead to a financial crisis. As you can see here, the household debt ratio has been continuously rising over the past 20 years.
57% or at the level of 20 years?
No, in 2004 it was low. It had been steadily increasing from around 57%. Therefore, if we include Joint's loans in unofficial statistics, it can be seen that South Korea has an extremely high level of debt, far exceeding 130% of GDP, which is quite rare even on a global scale.
In fact, the government was too lenient for a while regarding loans.
Yes.
We were too lenient. As a result, it is true that everyone started borrowing money to invest.
On January 3, 2023, measures were introduced to revive the Chunju housing project, along with various stimulus plans and the special mortgage program. Additionally, in January 2024, there will be special provisions for newborns, and for those getting married, the tax exemption limit for gift tax will be increased from 5 million to 150 million won. At that time, not taking advantage of these measures would have been foolish. However, now that loans have increased so much, it feels like we are in a rush to address the situation, as if the fire is finally under our feet. So, what are we going to do about the DSR? There is a growing possibility that it will be further strengthened. This is really a scary story, a truly frightening one. We also have this investment adage: banks are not on your side when times are tough. Right. In life, there aren't many people who truly stand by you during tough times, right? Even your husband seems to be on someone else's side, doesn't he? Is that why he's called a husband?
Yes, that's how they do it.
So when things are very tough, banks should act as an umbrella. Due to the nature of banks, if they do that, they could end up going bankrupt. But now what is it? If the banks have been somewhat lenient with loans until now, what does that mean? They are now going to strengthen their policies even more. It's going to be very strict.
The banks keep pouring out loan regulations, don't they?
So the reason for this is that the bank will establish its own plan for the increase in household loans from January 2024 to August 2024. Right. This means the achievement rate compared to the annual management plan is 150%. Based on August, it is 200%. So what this means is that they are currently lending much more than they originally did. The Financial Supervisory Service considers an appropriate level to be around 70 to 80%. But what does this indicate? It can reach up to 3 times. In other words, the banks have lent too much, even if they continue to provide loans. Of course, the banks probably have a lot to say about this. They likely have a lot to discuss. But for now, this is how things are. So, what will happen now? We will reduce loans even further, keeping them below the average DSR. So manage it more strictly than the DSR recommended by the government. In other words, reduce the loans further. So I'm talking about this now. As I look at the overall flow, I can see what kind of events are likely to unfold in the future. As I have mentioned a few times, the current real estate market is very similar to that of 2021. Do you remember 2021? It was extremely hot. And when did it peak? It peaked exactly in October. In the first half of 2022, transactions were completely stagnant. In the second half of 2022, the real estate market experienced a tremendous crash. And now, the hottest real estate market since 2021 is in 2024. It seems similar to 2021, and then 2022 will likely be similar to 2025. Let me explain why I think this way. The chart above shows the number of move-ins. This is the move-in volume chart, showing the move-in volume from 2021 onward, broken down by quarter. The green line, which we can say is the most accurate, represents the actual transaction price index from the Korea Real Estate Agency. And this blue line represents the market price of Richgo. So since we aggregate the actual transaction prices daily and create this as a standard, as you can see, it is almost identical to the actual transaction prices of South Korean real estate, right?
I see.
But it's a bit faster, right? The data, yes. So it is still rising until August. Now, if you look at this, the exact peak was in October 2021. At that time, I mentioned that it was a selling climate for the 10-year bond. And what happened after that? There was a slight rise, followed by a slight decline. Then, what happened in the second half of the year?
To decline.
There was a sharp decline. It was completely shattered. Almost no one expected it. And it wasn't just the sale prices that dropped. John's prices also plummeted simultaneously. Looking at the second half of 2022, was there a supply of new move-ins or was there not? There wasn't much, right? There really wasn't that much, but it was completely shattered. And what happened at that time? On January 3rd, the real estate measures were announced. Why? Duncheonjugong needs to be saved. That's right. Duncheonjugong originally had a very low subscription competition rate, but what happened was that they took out a short-term loan of nearly 800 billion won for 3 months to proceed with the project. So, if the actual contract rate was really low, by the end of January, the loan maturity was exactly 3 days after the contract date, which means they had to repay the loan then. They couldn't repay it. So what is going to happen? It seems like the real estate market in South Korea is facing a tremendous tsunami. Because of this, a special measure was announced on January 3rd to revive the market. What happened to the market after that? I turned away. I showed a reaction. I turned away. And as I mentioned last year, in my video, I said in September that something was strange with the data, and that if this continued, a decline would likely occur. And indeed, there was a decline, wasn't there? Yes, there was. But then what did they bring out? They introduced the newborn special case and raised the limit for the tax exemption. So what did I say about the market outlook? I said it would be moderate to low. And what happened right after February? The stress DSR Phase 1 has been implemented, but does the stress DSR Phase 1 have any impact or not? There was almost no impact. The additional interest rate was set at 0.25%, and since it only applied to housing mortgage loans from banks, there was virtually no effect. So I predicted that the market would be fine in the first half of the year, and it heated up significantly, but I believe it will not be good starting from the second half. If the stress DSR is implemented from the end of June, interest rates will rise not by 0.25 but by 0.75, and since the DSR will include credit collateral loans from banks as well as mortgage loans from secondary financial institutions, it will have a significant impact on the market. This will likely lead to a decrease in demand. This was the judgment made, but it was suddenly postponed to September. As a result of this postponement, household debt skyrocketed. It was already increasing rapidly, but with the government saying it was giving a last chance, household debt surged dramatically. One of the major reasons the market was bound to be hot until August 2024 was that since the 2000s, there had never been such a small supply of less than 5,000 units for 3 consecutive quarters in the first, second, and third quarters. Consequently, with no supply and the government fueling the situation, prices rose significantly.
The supply is expected to increase, right?
That's right. As you can see, supply will start from the fourth quarter.
If demand sentiment is decreasing and supply is increasing, we can predict that the market may worsen further.
There was no supply and the government was fueling it. But now both are changing. The supply is increasing and loans are suddenly aligning with everything, including John's loans. And this is not the end. So, what will happen in July 2025? The stress DSR will finally be implemented in 3 stages. And here is another strong point, the virtual interest rate. This applies a virtual interest rate of 1.5%, which is currently the stressed DSR, debt service ratio, level 3. But the virtual interest rate is not capped at 1.5%. To be precise, it can be set anywhere from 1.5% to 3%. What do you think about the recent news? They are currently implementing even stricter regulations than what is needed to manage the DSR. There is pressure being applied in this regard. What could happen to the virtual interest rates? They could rise even further. Starting from the stress, DSR stage 3, a virtual interest rate of 100% will be applied. This will significantly reduce the relief from loans.
There is a third phase, planned, but both the government and the banks are implementing loan regulations. If the demand sentiment decreases and slows down, could it be possible that we won't progress to the third stage?
That could be the case. It certainly could be. Therefore, we need to examine these factors. However, based on the current situation, it seems to me that the increase in household loans has become an urgent issue, and they are struggling to manage it. Of course, this could change, but as of now, the trend is quite concerning. I believe that starting in September, the real estate market will shift, similar to what we saw 2 years ago. Thus, the current real estate market is, in a way, nearing the end of a short-term rebound, and is at a critical juncture where it could enter another decline. I believe that there is a very high probability that a decline will occur in the metropolitan area real estate market. Whether this will be a gradual decline or a sharp drop like in the second half of 2022 will likely be clearer by the end of this year or early next year.
Since we are looking at this based on the video, do you think there is a possibility that more regulations will come out after the Chuseok holiday? If the interest rate adjustments are applied, I think I will be able to capture the inflection point once again.
I don't think there will be any further regulations. This is because the market is likely to decline after the Chuseok holiday. And since loan regulations have already been implemented quite extensively since September, I believe that supply and transaction volumes will decrease significantly from September onwards. Therefore, I don't think there will be any additional regulations. And I also believe that the government will monitor the intensity of any potential declines in real estate taxes and may implement supplementary measures accordingly.
Yes. Today we discussed why there have been warnings about a financial crisis due to the continuous increase in household debt, and what impact figures like Roh Moo-hyun might have in the future. Thank you for the insightful conversation.
Yes, thank you.